Chetnik forces are all kind of really scattered about, but you're facing the tip of Tito's spear, basically, because Tito has like his main forces right here to bear against you. Okay, that's a good strategy on Tito's part, I have to say.
Against the Chetniks is wonderful. The problem is, this is not the whole equation.
No. No, not at all.
But
yeah, I'm just really surprised it's taken us that long, but that's kind of how much stuff we got to get through. So we're getting to the crux of our issue here. The next 2 sessions are probably it, I think.
Yes.
Because we're basically just, this must be about the point where they're starting to realize that Italy's not going to be around too much longer. So they're starting to be kind of a scramble for what's going to happen in all the Italian places.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And then the Partisans
absolutely.
are kind of getting their mojo going on. They're finally becoming more effective at what they do. And the Chetniks, I'm guessing, are probably at their max point right now. This is probably the best it'll ever be for the Chetniks is right about now.
Well, it depends. It depends for the Chetniks, and also it also depends for the Partisans, and everything depends because this is Yugoslavia,
Right.
and everything depends. It's never a straightforward thing. But
no.
You're right. I mean, things do change. Things were complicated, so ultimately it's not like they're gonna get even more complicated. For some things that they're going to be some strange things happening, and on the other side, it's always
the one question I have at the beginning isn't this. I don't think it's quite full-time fighting yet, but they're fighting a lot more from here on out than they were before, because there were actually kind of lull periods before. But now I think from like this point forward, it's just pretty much nonstop fighting of one sort or another, because the Germans launch a whole bunch of offensives, and I think the Italians probably do one more before they go out, and then of course the Partisans are getting their troops together, so they start fighting all the time. I think I might be wrong. What's this? Late 42, early 43, or summer 43? I think we're summer 43, right?
So just to underscore what you said, in essence, when we talk about fighting, then we have the fighting, and we have the sabotage. In terms of the fighting, it never really stopped for the Partisans, but for the Partisans around Tito. So what should be noted is that, in contrast, obviously, to the other Partisans, and in contrast to the Chetniks, there's an issue because Tito has around him a very high concentration of Partisans. So a very high concentration of the whole Partisan force is around Tito. Okay, so this gives some good things, and it gives some bad things.
Right.
So it's very much rock, paper, scissors. In the Italian zone, there is upwards of 100,000 or 100,000 plus guerrillas operating there.
Yikes. Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, so we have the Partisans, so we have the legalized Chetniks, and we also have Mihailovich and his headquarters that are also in the Italian zone.
Ah, interesting. So everybody's there.
Exactly. And all of these guys ultimately are expected to join the Western Allies if they land.
So these guys mostly in not Slovenia? Is that where they are mostly at this point? Or are they down in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Oh, there they are. They are in Krajina. Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is in the Krajina zone. So in Dalmatia. So this is the highest concentration of Partisans up to date. Some German reports even give their strength at around 60,000+.
Wow. What do you think? You think that's reasonably accurate?
I don't know. I don't think so. But the problem with the Partisans is, and also I guess with the Chetniks is, you really have to differentiate between the mobile, the more efficient troops, and the militias.
Ah, I see. Because
So
most of them are probably militia, and they just don't really go anywhere. Not really super effective.
exactly, but
Mm.
but uh, since uh, since we have this thing with Tito, which personally leads a lot of the partisan force with him,
Mm.
this partisan part is relatively high percentage of the whole partisans, and this partisan part is very active. For
Mm.
instance, we have a letter from one of Tito's collaborators, one of his close
Okay.
collaborators,
Huh.
who is basically berating the Slovene partisans that they're not active enough and that they should look up to the part of the partisans with Tito.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
So this part is very active and it's engaged in direct combat, but mostly in the Italian zone.
Right, because the Italians they don't fight as effectively as the Germans do.
Exactly. So so when Tito makes his Soviet Republic in the Crimea region, it's mostly in the Italian zone and only partially in the German zone. And this allows him to build up his strength. So he, I guess, probably has 60,000 people on paper, but
Sure.
in actuality, we're talking about the his spearhead is made up of three divisions.
3 divisions. Okay, and then these divisions are 12-ish thousand people, something like that. I'm trying to remember what number you said last time. We just decided was the
In
right
total.
number for division. How much?
No. For partisan division, for better divisions like those three spearhead divisions, the force is around 4,000 people.
4,000 for division. Oh, so it's
Yeah.
like a regiment size in Western
Exactly.
military.
Exactly. Always go one or two steps down. For instance,
Right.
for Chetnik corps, they are not corps size, they're not division size, they're more regiment size.
Wow.
Or even below, depending on the division or corps.
Well, that's pretty small because corps are usually like 60,000 people, something like that. Wow. Okay.
I mean, partially it's intended to confuse.
Mission accomplished.
Well, yeah. So when the Germans read reports, they see mention. Well, the Chetniks have a more efficient command and control structure. So the Germans really,
in all fairness, they're mostly ex-military officers, so they actually did this prior to the start of the war.
Exactly. So it's rather difficult for the Germans to realize where all the units are and how they are named and so on and so forth. But anyways, the corps name is intended to confuse the enemy, as so is the partisan division. So obviously, it's not a division in terms of a regular European or U.S. army. It's a more of a regimental strength.
Okay.
For the better divisions. For some of the worst divisions, they're perhaps even battalion strength, or a couple of battalion strength.
Okay, that's a complete misnaming there, but all right, it makes sense.
Okay, so at this point, the partisans have some 9 to 10 divisions on paper.
Okay.
Three of them are actually important.
Right.
2 of them are proletarian divisions, and one is a shock division. So
are they all in Guerilla at this point?
I'm sorry, are they all?
Are they in Guerilla at this point?
Crimea, yes. In
Crimea.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the region Crimea, Dalmatia, Sarajevo on this map.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So so this is the main force that is around Tito. So he has some, I guess, 12,000 veteran fighters by now, which have been fighting and going with him for quite some time.
Yeah, a couple years at this point.
Yeah, so this is a very respectable force.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is equivalent of, I guess, one German division. So it's nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all.
Also, Mihailovich also has veteran fighters, but his veteran fighters are more spread out. So, and so we will see how the dynamic works just right now because it will just show the rock, paper, scissors mechanic of the war.
Ah, okay. Well, go ahead then. This is kind of how your game works too, by the way. So
Yes.
you designed it that way on purpose. I need to keep that light from coming in. Let's see. What can I do here?
We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good.
All right, there. Go ahead.
So basically, what happens is now the partisans have been spreading out their Soviet Republic, and they have been more or less kicking out the Croat garrisons and pushing back the Italians and the Chetniks.
Okay.
But the Germans decided that in the Italian zone there is upwards of 100,000 or 100,000 plus guerrillas operating there.
Yikes. Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, so we have the partisans, so we have the legalized Chetniks, and we also have Mihailovich and his headquarters that are also in the Italian zone.
Ah, interesting. So, yeah, everybody's there.
Exactly. And all of these guys ultimately are expected to join the Western Allies if they land.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And the Germans know by the end of 1942 that Italy will be going under at some point.
Right. So I'm trying to think, because Alemannia was pretty much October 42.
November, I guess, yeah.
Something like that. So at this point, North Africa is almost done. Not quite, which, of course, once North Africa is done, the Italians are next. So I don't know if they're in Tunisia yet, but they're definitely retreating back towards Tunisia. So they're giving up the entire North Africa at this point.
Yeah, I think that the Americans have even landed in Torch. So
yeah.
What happens now is that the Germans decide that they want to clean out the whole of the Italian zone.
Oh, so they actually just undertake an offense in the Italian zone then.
Exactly.
This the first big one? No, they actually had a couple, but this is like the first one during this. Well, this is the first one in the Italian zone, right?
Well, this is their first in the Italian zone. They had a couple of several offensives in Serbia and in Axis Croatia, but this is first offensive where they cross into the Italian zone.
Ah, okay. That must cause some bad blood. Of course, I'm not sure the Italians can really do much about it at this point, but
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's just important to just have one also thing in mind. When we also talk about the Italians are not one unified entity.
No.
There is a difference between the Italians back home in Rome, where the Mussolini is calling the shots, as opposed to these Italians here in Yugoslavia, which are, basically the Italian army, which I guess you could say really doesn't like Mussolini that much.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I don't hear too much about this part.
Absolutely. So this is, for instance, you have a whole episode where the Italian army is protecting some couple of thousand of Jews from the Germans.
Okay.
And as far as I remember, and I think I remember correctly, against the orders of the Mussolini government.
Okay.
So there's this whole thing going on for months. And the Italian army won't surrender these Jews, because they know they will be killed. Okay, so,
yeah. They don't want to get them killed. They're trying to keep them alive.
Well, listen, the Italians are not the nicest guys in the world, and nobody can be because they're occupiers. But in terms of being occupiers, I guess that, you can go and say that they're, in the nicest part that can be imagined.
Yeah, they're the nicest occupier. For whatever that is.
Yeah, it's not nice, but they're the nicest. So,
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
As far as the Serbs go, they're the communist Serbs hate them, but ordinary Serbs don't. Anyways, so the German plan is they have the plan for some 2 or 3 stages of their offensive. They will first come into the Crimea region and destroy the Soviet Republic.
Okay.
Then they will come further in the Italian region and disarm the Chetniks and find Mihailovich and capture him.
Oh, okay.
And the Allied officers and so on and so forth.
Very ambitious.
Yes, in terms of their forces that are earmarked for this, you're actually quite correct, because their forces are not the forces from 1941.
No. I'm not even sure it's the forces from like late 43 and 44 where the Germans actually had real troops down there at one point, but.
Well, let me put it this way. Let's not overdo the late 1943, 1944 troops that were here.
Fair enough.
Because
they probably weren't so good.
Yeah, exactly. So the first part of the plan is to come into the Crimea region and destroy the Partisan Republic, and this is ultimately done.
Yeah.
There's a whole question of whether the Partisans, or Tito, to be precise, were tipped off by the Ustaše government or not, because there were some contacts with Ustaše.
Wow, anyways, that's a tough one, because they were probably looking for Tito. So well, I mean, it doesn't matter if that happened or not. Tito didn't get caught, but do you think maybe this had a part of him not getting caught?
Honestly, I have no idea, because I don't know why would they be having a high-level discussion right before the offensive. Anyways, what happens is Tito gives them the slip.
Yeah.
His republic basically collapses. So his troops immediately go from 60,000 to, I guess, 30,000 or something like that. Obviously half of them desert immediately.
Sure,
but
yeah, of course.
He has around him some 15 to 20,000 hardcore, veterans and partisans and proletarians, and he leads them on a march through Dalmatia and into the Chetnik-held Herzegovina region.
Oh, is this Neretva? Is this where the whole battle takes place, or is this the next offensive? Oh, it's this one. Okay, all right.
So basically, what happens is the Germans just kick them out and push them towards deeper into the Italian zone.
Right.
Because obviously, the Germans want to have them fight the Chetniks, which would be the best option.
Oh my gosh, yeah. In fact, that should actually happen if they don't mess with them too much, but we'll see.
Exactly. So what happens now is the Germans push the partisans towards Neretva and actually Herzegovina, and the partisans destroy a couple of smaller Italian garrisons.
Right.
However, at that point, there are some Chetniks that come in and block the partisans, and from on one side, and on this other side, there are some pursuing German troops. Not a lot of them, because the partisans have basically outstripped and outran them.
Right. Which makes sense. They know the territory. They're not really carrying a lot of heavy weapons, so they can move faster.
Well, yeah, they're carrying civilians with them, but that's neither here or there. They have some actually heavy weapons from the Italian garrisons. Not a lot.
Oh, right, that's right. Yeah, that was the other game they were playing, is taking the weapons from the Italians.
Exactly. But what happens now? Yeah, what happens now is that the partisans and the Germans have negotiations.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And the partisans, well, the communists, swear that these are just related to exchange of prisoners.
Okay.
Which is obviously not true, because these negotiations go on and on and on. And the exchange of prisoners is just one small part of the negotiations.
Right.
Actually, they had a couple of prisoner exchanges before that. So there's basically a line between the partisan headquarters and the Germans. Negotiation line that is ongoing throughout the war.
Ah,
which, I mean, it doesn't mean they're friends. It just means
right.
that they do have contacts, which obviously nobody knows about.
Yeah, they don't talk about it now either, I assume.
Well, not too much.
Right.
It's
Okay.
known that guy who was the contact, the partisans captured him in 1945 and immediately shot him.
You think? That's a
There you go.
very convenient for them, yes.
So what happens now is that the partisans have breathing room as far as the Germans go,
Mhm.
and actually they have some even intelligence informations from the Germans on the Chetniks.
Wow.
And yeah, and the partisans then crossed the Neretva River. There was a very small skirmish. There was not a big fight on the crossing.
Right.
But what happens is the partisans, the Chetniks basically have a crisis of faith, if you can call it like that.
Yeah.
And these Chetniks basically collapse, these Montenegrin Chetniks.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. So how is it that Tito got pushed out then? Because I thought the Chetniks pushed him out. I guess not.
Well, there are other Chetniks. What happens now is that
we'll get to that. Okay.
one thing that should be borne in mind is that when we talk about the partisans, we talk about X number of troops.
Right.
And when we talk about Chetniks, we talk about X times 2.
Oh, okay.
So if the German estimations of partisan strength in the Krajina region and in the Soviet Republic were around 60 or 70,000, the German estimations of Chetnik strength were around 150,000.
Ooh, that's a lot. Yeah, I don't think that's accurate, but okay, that's my own opinion.
There you go. All of these, this is, I guess, again, as with the partisan estimates, probably counting in the militia and
right.
And
yeah, they're counting their police troops and militia troops as like frontline troops, which isn't a good counting system. Not really.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Anyways, what happens is there are some Chetniks coming in from the Dinara region, coming back to their Herzegovina.
Oh, okay. Let me scroll over a little bit. Okay, I see. So they're regrouping then, and they're coming back into the fight at this point. Some of them.
Yeah, exactly. So they're pushing back. They're pushing back the partisans now. So what happens is the partisans push back the Montenegrin and local troops.
Right.
And they start going into this zone. I guess this would be in the Sanjak region.
Right.
But this would be this territory, basically between Bosnia and Montenegro, today's Bosnia and Montenegro.
Okay.
And they're actually pushing back the Chetniks, which are local, the Montenegrin Chetniks, but they're actually being pushed back by the Herzegovina Chetniks.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And there's also one thing. Ultimately, they're coming into Chetnik territory. So they're getting closer to Serbia. Mihailovic, yeah.
Serbia, not quite, but they're right on the edge of it.
Yeah. So Mihailovic can mobilize as many people as he wants from Serbia.
Right.
But he doesn't want to do that.
I could see that because you're going to get them all killed and you're basically going to attract more attention. You've been trying to not attract attention.
Because Mihailovic knows that there's something happening, just like you said.
Yeah.
Mihailovic, this is the huge difference between the partisans and the Chetniks that nobody talks about. The Chetniks have a functioning radio system, communications, and intelligence gathering.
Okay.
So they are actually a army.
Yeah.
Their radio system is primitive.
Works.
But it's still a radio system. It's not like 2 radio stations that the partisans have, of which one of which, if it doesn't work, it's actually a bonus for the partisans. So,
yeah, okay.
So what's happening here is that a number of partisans, something between around probably 18,000, is being cordoned by 20,000 Chetniks, say.
Oh, okay.
But what's happening on the other side is that the Chetniks know that the storm clouds are gathering around,
Mm.
and that the Germans are coming in, making a bigger cordon from their own.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And contrary to the forces that were being engaged in the first offensive against the Partisans,
Yep.
The Germans have now brought in a first-line elite unit.
Whoa, is this the Prince Eugen?
The Prince Eugen was engaged in Kraina.
Okay.
From the beginning.
So this is another unit then.
Yeah. And
okay.
For the first time in Yugoslavia, they send in the first mountain division.
Ooh, that's serious. Okay.
So these were the guys that planted the German flag on Elbrus.
Yeah.
In the Caucasus.
Yeah. So they're very serious.
Yeah. So Mihailovich knows this. He knows that there's something happening from the German side, and he does want to hold off the Partisans, but he doesn't really want to bring in a lot of forces which could be potentially destroyed.
Oh, yeah, they could get wrapped up in everything and get blasted by these real units.
Exactly. So, again, the Chetniks found themselves between the Partisans and the Axis.
Okay, it seems to be where they always end up at, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, it's going to change in 1944.
Oh, yeah.
But what happens now is that the Germans start to activate themselves, and they activate the next part of their plan, which is to disarm and destroy the Chetniks.
Ooh, they went after the Chetniks. Well, yeah, I guess they are the bigger threat because they're the ones in Serbia.
Well,
okay.
First of all, they have a deal with the Partisans.
Interesting.
And the Chetniks are obviously a bigger threat.
Yeah,
and they can potentially,
twice the size of the Partisans.
They can potentially catch Mihailovich and the Allied officers which are with Mihailovich.
Ooh, that would be a huge bonus.
Now, what happens is that Mihailovich manages to escape several hours before the Germans come in.
Ooh, okay.
Some, however, of his commanders don't.
Yikes.
He has a problem. Yeah, he has a problem with local commanders that has been shown by this Neretva battle. So, while some commanders are efficient and can be relied upon, some commanders are terrible and their units collapse. While some commanders are actually good commanders, but they're not reliable. And one of these commanders actually wants to join the Germans.
Ooh, okay, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that he actually met the British. He really realizes that something fishy is going on in terms of the British. No. And he is probably saying to himself, okay, I mean, these people cannot be relied upon. They're obviously gunning for the Partisans. We should join the Germans.
Oh, that reminds me of something I should ask you real quick before we go down this road. Do we need to have an episode on just kind of like the British involvement here? Because it's a whole different thing than what everyone else is doing. It's kind of weird because it really flavors how most of the West understands Yugoslavia. Because all we ever hear about is kind of what the British did, not what everyone else did, which is not the right answer for this situation. Do you think we should have a special episode on just that?
A flash preview. The next episode will be called The Two Dumb Decisions.
Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, we should probably do that before we do the post-Neretva thing, because you kind of really understand that at this point, the British have really started to have some effect on things. But
well, it's going to be the post-Neretva. It's going to be the post-Neretva. Okay.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Go ahead then.
Okay. So what happens now is that out of these, I guess, 20,000+ Chetniks, some 4,000 are actually captured by the Germans.
That's a lot for them, actually.
Exactly. Mostly mostly from the detachment of that officer that actually wanted to change sides.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Uh,
So they just ignored him then. They didn't pay any attention to what he was saying.
who?
The guy that was trying to defect.
Well, Mihailovich warned him, don't try to make a deal with the Germans. They're the enemy. That guy wouldn't listen.
So now he's paying the price for his stupidity. Okay.
Well, we'll talk about him later on, but his troops are captured now. He's now captured and sent to Mauthausen or something like that. Anyways, now what happens is Chetniks disappear.
Oh, okay.
They dissolve into smaller units and mostly escape the Germans. Actually, partially with Italian help. So we have German reports complaining that the Italians have helped the Chetniks escape the Germans.
Well, it's not like the Italians and Germans are really good buddies, so that I'm sure they probably felt a way to get back to the Germans. Hey, we're going to help these Chetniks out of here. Screw you guys.
It's even worse. The German commander is an Austrian. So the German commander is Alexander Lehr, which is
an
Austrian.
World War I perception of stuff where you just kind of slaughter Serbians indiscriminately, which is okay. Have fun with that in a guerrilla warfare, my friend. That is a non-winning solution.
So it's always in Yugoslavia. There's always these old grudges, and everybody's like, "Yeah, the Serbs and the Croats hate themselves." You didn't see the Germans and the Italians. It's like they're working against each other all the time.
All right. Anyway, so the Chetniks disappear. They go, and we call run to the hills, or they go guerrilla, or they go to the ground. They just basically stop being a functional military and turn into like a guerrilla force. In essence, is kind of what it amounts to.
Well, they break up into smaller formations.
They go guerrilla.
Exactly. But one of the good things of having a functioning radio system and everything is that you can go back.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, because the Partisans can't really make this switch yet. Not yet.
Anyways, that's one part of the equation. So we have the rock and the paper. So the Chetniks would be the paper. The rock is not very efficient against them.
No.
But Tito's scissors are.
Yeah, they are.
So he brings he brings a lot of troops concentrated against smaller concentrations of Chetniks. His troops are always veteran. The Chetniks are not necessarily. And Mihailovich does have a problem in terms of he didn't destroy Tito.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So basically the paradigm is you've got the Chetniks without really much military organization. You probably don't have the creme de la creme of the Chetnik forces are all kind of really scattered about, but you're facing the tip of Tito's spear, basically, because Tito has like his main forces right here to bear against you. Okay, that's a good strategy on Tito's part, I have to say.
Against the Chetniks is wonderful. The problem is this is not the whole equation.
No. No, not at all.
There's a rock coming in.
Okay.
Now what happens is, first of all, I guess, I'm going to make a straw man argument and say here that the Westerners see Yugoslavs and, Serbs as these shifty people that are, primitive and so on and so forth and not really reliable. In this story, the Germans are the ones that are the liars.
Okay.
And they're actually going to make their biggest success against guerrilla formations for the whole war.
Really? Okay.
Based on a trick. So they have been stringing the partisans along for the whole time. And actually, the local Germans and the pro-Croat Germans wanted to make the partisans, to make a German partisan alliance similar to the Chetnik-Italian alliance.
Interesting.
Because their vision is that the partisans will help them in case the Western allies land.
Yeah. I mean, they probably wouldn't, but it's a wonderful theory.
I'm actually not so certain that they wouldn't.
Really?
I'm actually in the other camp.
Okay.
Because ultimately, if the Western allies come in, they're going to bring democracy.
Oh, and Tito doesn't want any part of that action. Oh, because that pretty much puts him out of power.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, so what happens is that they negotiate with the partisans for like 2.5 months.
Okay. Long
but
time.
The big guy in Berlin finds out about it.
No. Always Hitler. Okay.
And he is like livid.
Yeah.
He has been, entreating and pleading with Mussolini to break up the Chetnik alliance.
Right.
And his guys are telling him, listen, this partisan alliance is going to be just like the Italian Chetnik alliance, only better. And even worse, somebody might find out that the Germans are really cooperating with communists. And, actually, as far as the Germans go, the anti-communist spiel is practically the only thing that they have, if they're not anti-communist, I guess, they don't really have anything to stand on, propaganda-wise.
That's true. They really don't have much beyond, we're just going to kill you and take your land. That's not really winning propaganda.
Yeah, so the orders come in from Berlin. You got to break up the negotiations immediately and shoot everybody immediately.
Wow. Okay.
And the local Germans are like, wait, they're shooting at each other. Let them shoot each other a little bit more so we can come in.
Yeah, we don't need to mess that up. They're doing good without our help.
Exactly. So this is something that is also seen and probably by both Western British reports and the Soviet reports.
Oh, okay.
Because Moscow is angry at Tito because he's talking to the Germans.
Yeah,
and
I see that.
And the British are seeing that for some reason they don't decipher any messages related to the partisan German negotiations, but they are seeing that the Germans have pushed the partisans towards the Chetniks so they can fight each other till extinction.
Oh, very deliberate then. That's actually a pretty good strategy. Why fight when we can let the two guys fight amongst themselves? Okay.
Now, what happens now is that Chetniks disappear. They have gone to the ground. They have, disappeared, went over to Serbia, went over to the other parts, hidden closer to the Italian and so on and so forth. And now we have the situation whereby the partisans find themselves surrounded.
Oh boy, yeah.
Now, if you think this is going to end well, I got news for you.
Yeah. Not at all.
Okay, so let's make a long story short, and I'm going to share now the casualty numbers.
Okay, that's what that was. Okay, let's see them. Now it's going to make a lot more sense with the right context here. Okay, there we go. So what do we got? Germans, 1,700 wounded, 600-ish killed. Oh, the partisans got hammered. Well, we already knew that. The partisans got hammered here. Oh, there were still some Chetniks hanging around, I guess, at this point?
Well, these are the Chetniks that were captured.
Oh. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, as opposed to the partisans who got killed. Oh, there were Croats, too. Yeah, of course. So the partisans took a beating here, body count-wise. Well, actually, pretty much wiped out their whole military at the time, didn't it? Or made it?
Well, it was not completely wiped out because of the three main divisions, one division was wiped out.
Oh, okay. But they took a lot of casualties, so they would actually need to have a whole bunch of regrouping before they did any more military things after this.
Yes. After this, they were basically a knockdown. So. For partisan casualties, the 7,500 were counted dead. So the 3,000 or 4,000 were the German estimations. But
this is what the Germans estimated their dead to be.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that you could say with very safely say that the partisans lost anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of their force.
Yeah,
Of their
pretty much.
Yeah.
You have 3 divisions, and that's at least 1/3, probably 2/3, since you said the divisions were undersized. So that's probably 2 of the 3 right there.
Well, yeah, they had a couple of other divisions which were smaller, and
Yeah.
maybe they didn't. Maybe the Germans didn't kill all 13,000. Maybe they killed less. This is only their estimation. After this battle, partisans were in severe knockdown.
Yeah.
So after these two battles, the Neretva battle and this is the Sutjeska battle or Operation Schwartz, basically, yeah, both the partisans and the Chetniks in this Italian zone were severely hammered, severely, because the Chetniks basically took a hammering in the Neretva battle.
Right.
Not as much as it is generally assumed and said, because also the partisans took somewhat of a hammering in that battle, but with the addition of this capture by the Germans of a whole Chetnik corps, one of their elite corps, the Chetniks were they were severely hammered. And also the problem is that this was a no-go territory for some time now, because the Germans were marching through this territory, but they ultimately did not succeed in any of their, I guess, most ambitious objectives.
Yeah, because it seems like, well, I mean, my interpretation of Neretva is this kind of winds up being Tito's like 10,000-mile march, or whatever the Chinese version is of the Long March. And I'm assuming the Soviets had a Long March somewhere. So it's kind of like the people that survived Neretva wind up becoming like the core of anything that happens for the partisans from this point forward. And now you've got like a core that's really brought together by crisis. So it's a fairly strong core. Whereas I think the Chetniks in a different direction. I think they kind of wound up being more spread out and probably less capable after this.
Well, for the other thing, I would not agree, because this battle showed some inadequacies in the Chetnik part, and Montenegrin Chetniks never recovered on one hand, but some other Chetnik detachments, well, the Chetniks from the Herzegovina were now elite, definitely. They came through a lot of battles and they pushed the partisans back, so they were elite. And also some of the other corps commanders were changed. And so basically Mihailovich strengthened his organizations in some parts.